community, and welcome to Tommy's Musical Adventures. This is part 2 of my Big Star collection, and in the last video, which I know was really long, I tried to kind of tell the story of Big Star through the collection, and so this time I'm just going to pretty much show my vinyl Big Star collection and some of the related titles. A lot of these were featured in the last video, but I just want to show the vinyl copies just to have kind of a nice follow-up. So this video will not be as long, and I'm not going to go into detail. So if you want to go back and hear the Big Star story, kind of as told through me and through my collection, go back and look at the first video. But this is, I'm just showing records, and some of you, that may be all you're interested in anyway. This is my Big Star slip mat, and it actually glows in the dark. With all the lights shut off, as you can see it glowing in the dark, which is pretty cool. It's completely dark in here. So I'm going to start with just the Big Star records and kind of work my way through. This is, of course, #1 record. This is an original copy on the Ardent label. Just take that out. This is a very nice copy. One of the more valuable records in my collection, and just really stoked to have a copy of #1 record, especially such a nice copy, because this is really, to me, the only and perfect Big Star record, because this has all 4 guys on it. There's the back cover. It's got all 4 members, and so this is to me, the only sort of what I would call complete copy. I also have an original pressing, not an original, this is a reissue of #1 record. Same label and everything. This is one on the Concord Music Group that's pretty available and relatively cheap. I think you can find a copy around 15 bucks. Now, there's a question about the plates, and maybe some of you guys can comment down below about that they use the same plates as the classic records release. This is an album that's been reissued numerous times by different labels and different forms. And so, you know, there's a lot more to I say a lot more to be known about it, a lot more than I know about it. But this is a pretty easy to find copy. Now, I believe they've come out again within the last 6 months. There's even a new reissue, and I don't know really a whole lot about those. But I know that this is a very good, clean-sounding copy of this album. Now, I also have an original copy of Radio City, the second album. I'll take it out here. Now, this copy's not in as good a shape as my copy of #1 record. As you can see, there's some damage on the bottom. The record's kind of beat up and scuffy. It does play, but as a collector and as a Big Star fan, I was really glad to find a copy. And the story on this, and I've told it before, and I'll tell it really quickly again, is I found this in sort of a garage sale stack, and I probably gave about $5 or $6 for it. So for the amount of money I paid for it, I came out really, really good on it. And I have the reissue, the Concord reissue, that sounds really good. So just to show you that one. This is my go-to playing copy, just to have a good copy to play. The next one is Big Star's third. This is unfortunately the 4 Men with Beards pressing of this album, which I know a lot here, guys here in the vinyl community feel like it's questionable, the quality of the pressing, which I might be inclined to agree. It's probably a digital press, I would imagine. Again, just to have a copy of Third on vinyl, this was the only readily available copy at the time, so I had it. Now, Omnivore Records has done a fantastic job of reissuing the Big Star catalog and kind of mining the Big Star vault a little bit. They've worked really closely with Ardent and John Fry, the late John Fry, and managed to put out some really good stuff. Now, one of the things they've done is the soundtrack to Nothing Can Hurt Me, which is the film that I was discussing in the last video. This was a Record Store Day release, released on 180-gram vinyl. Mine is the orange copy, which I'm not sure how many were limited to the orange pressings, but and I'll pull the record out here so you can get a good look at it. Now, this is a neat soundtrack because they could have easily just served as just a true soundtrack to the film, but these are alternate takes and different mixes. Some of these never been released. Some of them were mixed especially for the film. And so there's a little bit of stuff. It's all the tracks had been previously unissued. So this is a nice companion to any Big Star collection, and really essential, because had they just put the studio tracks, the album tracks, this probably wouldn't be that necessary. But the fact that they actually used different mixes, and so if you're familiar with the Big Star records and the recordings, this is really, to me, essential listening to have that. Omnivore also put out on Record Store Day a couple of years ago a special 10-inch version of Jesus Christ, which is a song for the third album, kind of in companion to their complete third set. But I love this because I love this cover. This was a promotional poster that was put out by Ardent, and I've always loved that picture of the three wise men pointing at the big star in the sky. Just a great photo. This is, like I said, a 10-inch, and I believe it is, it's on blue vinyl, which is pretty cool. So it's a neat thing. It's not essential to a Big Star collection, but it's neat if you're a Big Star completist like myself. Another one, and this wasn't put out by Omnivore. This was actually put out by Columbia Legacy. This is the complete Columbia concert that Big Star did in the early 90s that I talked about in my last video, the reunion concert. This was a Record Store Day release. It's a 2-record set. So it's got, I believe, 3 extra songs on it. And so this is an early 90s recording. Now, one of the great things that Omnivore did was a complete third. Now, this, to me, supplants the Four Men with Beards pressing. Now, here's the thing. They put out 3 double record sets. There's a CD box set also that's been released. Now, this was the box that I have here is part of a Record Store Day set, and so there were 3 different volumes of this. There was volumes 1, 2, and 3. 2 actually was not Record Store Day, but basically the first 2 volumes are demos, alternate takes, and just kind of stuff leading up to the actual third album. And to me, it's kind of rough listening. Some of it's kind of cool. A lot of it is unnecessary, but for completists, it's utterly fascinating. But if you're just interested in having a nice copy of the third album, there is the volume 3 is the one to get, because that's the one that has the final masters in it. I'm gonna pull it out here and just show you kind of the cover. But it's a 2-record set, and it pretty much has all of the final versions. There's been several versions of third that has been released, and so none of them are really definitive, because as it was an incomplete album. And so, there's been several different versions of it that have been put together. The Ryko is sort of Jim Dickinson's version of the album. There's different ones, and a lot of people based it off of that. But anyway, third, the complete third, and I believe you can get that volume 3 final masters. You can get that on its own, so you don't have to have the complete set or anything like that. And another one that I've got is this live on WLIR, which is that New York or East Coast broadcast that was done on the Ryko earlier live Big Star Live disc. This is the vinyl version. Omnivore has put this out as a double record set. The sound quality on this is little to be desired. It's not the best sounding stuff, but it gives you a glimpse as to what Big Star was like live and during that time period. And so that's on my Big Star vinyl. Now I know In Space has been reissued, and there's some other Omnivore releases. There's another 90s show that's out there, and then a Live at Lafayette's Music Room that's been released. And I do plan on getting those at some point. I just haven't got them yet. Now, a couple other Big Star related things I want to go through kind of quickly for you guys. In the last video, I talked about the box tops. This is the first album on Bell Records. The Letter, Neon Rainbow, put that there. Cry Like a Baby. Again, these are all stereo copies. I don't have monos. If I ever see any, I will. This is Nonstop. Now, this copy of Nonstop is actually a British copy. I can't remember what label it is. It's still Bell Records, but it is actually a British pressing I found. I can't even remember where I got it. And then finally, of course, Dimensions, which is one of my favorite box tops records. I love this record a lot. Another one, Jim Dickinson or James Luther Dickinson, Dixie Fried. I talked about that in the previous video. Now this has been reissued by Light in the Attic. This is an original on Atlantic. It's a promo copy. There's a radio stamp across the front of Jim there. And so really cool record. I love it. I also talk a little bit about Van Duren. This is his album, Are You Serious? This is a wonderful, just power pop record. Van Duren was one of the good friends with Chris Bell and just one of the, I call him the Big Star extras, kind of close to the Big Star story. Memphis guy, and like I said, was kind of in the thick of what was going on, particularly after the Big Star thing imploded. And another band that I love talking about is the Hot Dogs. Greg Reading and Bill Rennie, and I believe Bill passed away this past year. Cargo, another Memphis power pop band, they're part of this, but this album was produced by Terry Manning. This was released on the Ardent label. So this is kind of like, you know, I call it a Big Star friends and family sort of record, and definitely worth having as a Big Star fan. It's pretty cool. And in addition to that, and I every chance I get to talk about this, I do. One of my very favorite 45s of all time is the Hot Dogs' I Walk the Line. Just a smoking power pop version of that song. It's the Johnny Cash song, and really, really stoked to have this 45 in my collection because it's just really cool. And I've got a couple of other Hot Dogs 45s that I've picked up just from finding them. Another release to show and talk about is I Am the Cosmos by Chris Bell. Chris Bell, who unfortunately passed away in '78. This is the Four Man with Beards record, but this has been reissued by Omnivore and is readily available. I also have the box set. I'm not going to take it apart, but this is the complete Chris Bell. It's a 6-record set that really is all the Chris Bell that you could ever want. There's some early stuff, some of the early bands, Icewater, Rock City. This is the Rock City album, C7 States is in there, as well as I Am the Cosmos. There's some outtakes and alternates. And then really cool, finally, is the interview disc. And I believe all of these records are available individually with the exception of the interview. It was exclusive to this box. But the complete Chris Bell, a really, really cool thing to have as a Big Star fan and collector. And lastly, we'll go through my Alex Chilton. This is Box Bottom, of course, Bach the composer, but this is a take on the Box Tops, Box Bottom. So it's Alex kind of having fun. Late 70s, early 80s release. This is, I believe, a German pressing from 1980. This album's been remixed a couple of times, so there's a lot of questionable versions of it out there. But this is, I think, the original mix on this particular release. Alex Chilton, Feudalist Tarts. This is on the Big Time. This was one of his mid-80s releases. Of course, High Priest, which is kind of a pop rock record that came out on the Big Time label around 1987. So it's a cool release. And this is one that Omnivore has reissued. Omnivore has done a really fantastic job. I've said that before. I'll say it again of getting this Big Star stuff out to fans. This is his album in the mid-90s, A Man Called Destruction. This is the first and only vinyl release of this album. But this is just a cool record. It sort of says it's his return to pop rock. But it's a fun record to listen to. Just full of kind of that Alex Chilton twisted humor. And just some songs like What's Your Sign, Devil Girl, and a really fun song called It's Your Funeral, which is kind of a New Orleans funeral dirge. So it's a neat release. But anyway, that's my Big Star stuff on vinyl. If you want to know more about the Big Star story, go back to video number 1, where I kind of go into detail about kind of the history of the band and how it came to be, and kind of tell it through the history of the recordings. But I wanted to show the vinyl as well, because I know some of you are interested in see that. Comment down below. What do you think? I love interacting with you guys, so I try to respond to each and every video. Give the video a like, a thumbs up if you're so inclined. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell and get notified whenever new videos come up and are available to watch. I thank everybody for watching and tuning into my stuff because I love sharing the records with you guys. And I hope you get something out of it, maybe learn something. If you don't know about Big Star, you don't know about any of these records, I'm certainly someone that can talk to you about them because I've spent a lot of time listening to them. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Save the Texas Prairie Chicken. Good night.